So, I'm not a professional. In fact, I'm quite bad. I've been very inconsistent lately since I've been working on stuff outside of game development, so my knowledge is pretty spotty. You'll notice that through this, I pause and kind of just sit there, which is me reading documentation or like someone's post on the dev forum. To quickly summarize what I'm making here, it's sort of a toolkit for inexperienced developers to use to make a visual novel quickly and easily without really any prior coding experience, similar to RenPy if you ever heard of it. I've been quote-unquote working on this for way too long, but most of it was stalling because I was clueless on how to code some features. That is, until I realized Roblox isn't an engine made from the ground up for visual novels like RenPy. Duh. So, this short series is me finishing the toolkit with all the features possible on Roblox. One last thing, since coding is boring to watch, this video sped up like 7 times. So I started off with testing the basics of the newish Roblox text scroll system. They use a variable called max visible graphmes, or whatever it's called, and it starts at -1, which displays all text. However, if you put it to 0, it shows nothing, and 1 shows one character, and so on. They use their own type of system called graphmes instead of characters, so I had to figure out how that works. I started with just copying someone's basic code to get the idea of how it works, and I had to go through multiple versions of it not working. At least until I eventually found out it was just because my variables are messed up, and it worked fine after I figured that out. To simplify, the code just repeats itself for each graphme there is in the given text, each repeating, adding one index value, and changing the max visible graphme to the index's value. Then it waits for a set amount of time. That set time I can make a variable, which can then be changed in the settings so you can change how fast the text scrolls in. After finally finishing up that, I moved on to making the more final version for my module scripts, basically repeating the same code, but now as a function that can be used in every other script. It was mostly just cleaning up the code that I already understood to make it more readable, and then once again messing up with the same damn variable issue again like an idiot. It took me way longer than I would like to admit to figure out the same issue again, but after I figured that out, the rest was pretty simple. Mostly making sure the text is made invisible right before it's changed to the new text, so you don't see the new text before. Then the other script would use this function, which basically requires the name of the character, the text you want that character to say. Then this would be displayed in the typewriter style, while the name would be displayed instantly. Now I made the system to keep track of what line you were on. The engine works very simply with the code you make just being a long line of if statements and pre-made functions. And easy to use, and honestly, anyone could code a game with this. But for that, I need every script to be able to know what line you were on. Another reason to keep track of this number is for the saving system later, which would skip you to that line by every function disabling itself while you are loading. So you can run down your script until it reaches the correct line. From there, you'll be able to play like normal. This also allows you to split your game into multiple scripts for organizing purposes, or any other reason you want. Half of this code is for modifying the line, the other half is for the variable that controls if functions will go off or not. Then from there I can make all the scripts not play if can display is false. Next, it was time to work on the history. In Ren'Py and most visual novels, the game keeps track of the previous lines that were said and keeps them in a handy tab to look at if you forgot or need to reread. This system is super important for my engine because there will be no rewind function due to how many issues it would cause with the simplicity and ease of use of developer. So I decided not to include the rewind feature so this can be easy to use as possible for anyone. The first thing I made for the history was the GUI. It was honestly lazy and I just threw something together that was functional. I decided to make history only show the last 5 lines for now, mostly because the difference between 5 lines and 100 is about the same, and I'll make the scrolling frame for that later so it'll show more. The coding footage got lost because I was an idiot and had start recording and end recording set to my brackets. But to quickly explain, history is just a table that gets added to when text is displayed, and if it is over 5, it removes the last one and then adds on to the end of it. At the end of all text displaying, it updates the history and displays it on the history tab. It did take a shocking amount of time for me to get this right, as I was trying to add strings to tables, which you can't do with the table insert. To finish it off, I just made the history button work and added a button to also close it. I used my scripts from the previous buttons on the main menu so everything had the same formatting and wasn't confusing. On the next video, I'm going to add actual clicking to progress and skip the dialogue animation, the save function itself and the menu for it, the autoplay function, and the settings as well. With all those features done, this toolkit will basically be ready to ship. If you're interested in any of this, you can join my Discord server in the description down there, and you can ask me any questions. This engine will be for sale, and if you don't have money on Discord for a one-time purchase, you can donate Robux to any of my games and send me proof, and I'll give it to you then as well. I want to lock this out from people, mostly children, that don't have access to actual money, since I want this to be an easy toolkit for people who can't code or artists that don't know how to code at all.